everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of the MVC Youth Podcast.
MVC Youth Podcast.
MVC Youth Podcast, my mistake. Today we're going to be talking about convictions that young Christians have to deal with, and not necessarily like convictions per se, but how we as young Christians should deal with convictions and possible areas that we may struggle to deal with them. Mm-hmm. But first, I just want to go back to a podcast that we did a couple weeks ago, and it was the one about materialism. Because, we had this long talk, mostly about sneakers because of me. But I kind of talked about pastors, preachers in the US and stuff like that. There's quite a lot of them that wear really expensive designer brands and like really rare sneakers. Some cost $500 and even $1,000. And they wear them on stage and they're wearing them. And then a lot of people are upset by this. And the Instagram page Preachers and Sneakers, who kind of brought this to light, he feels a little bit bad for bringing it to light, because the point of his Instagram was to not call out these preachers, but to just kind of make a point like, hey, these guys are wearing like really fancy sneakers and that sneakerheads love to wear. But he just started a podcast. He only has one episode up at this moment in time. He only has one episode up. And he was with a guest who I think he knew. He's very good friends with, who was also a preacher, and they discussed the question that the dude that runs the Instagram page. They answered the question, or they talked about the question that he gets every time he makes an Instagram post, and it's like, should these preachers be wearing $500 dollar sneakers and like $1,000 Gucci sweaters and belts and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
And I can't remember who the guest was specifically, but he said, he actually made quite a few points that I guess hasn't really answered the question of whether or not preachers should be wearing expensive clothing, but it did kind of give a little bit more insight into what's the word, to why they do it. Mm-hmm. So it gave a little insight as to why they wear these things. I guess the first point is we don't necessarily always know how they're getting these sneakers or how they're getting, these pants and belts and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the guest gave an example of saying he wanted to kind of relate to this teenage boy that he was mentoring at the time. And so he knew that the boy loved sneakers, so he went home and did some research on it, and he saw a pair of I think he said they were Jordan 12s. I can't remember exactly what Jordan 12s look like, but I mean that doesn't really matter. Anyways, so he goes up to the kid next time he sees him, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I heard Jordan's releasing a new Jordan 12, and this colorway, this shoe looks so sick." And the kid's face lit up, and what the kid did, he went home, he went to the store and he bought this dude the pair of shoes. Now, they weren't exactly super limited or super expensive. Well, they were kind of expensive. Yeah. But they weren't $500, $600. They were $200 sneakers. Yeah. And he gifted them to the pastor. And he was just so overwhelmed because this boy wanted to glorify God by giving the pastor a gift. Mm. And he was saying that in some situations, maybe that's where pastors are getting their sneakers from. Maybe they gifted them, which I thought was interesting, especially when he had a story to back it up. And I mean, there are so many preachers and pastors that wear super expensive things. I doubt all of them get gifted to them, but that's kind of where some of it comes from. Yeah. And then he kind of had the argument. Who I actually had a conversation with Travis, the associate pastor, about as well. And he was saying back in the day, pastors would be wearing, $4,000, $5,000 suits. Mm-hmm. But now, because times have changed, they're changing it to, $1,000 sneakers, $1,000 Gucci sweaters and all that sort of stuff. So it's still it's the exact same thing that was happening years ago, but
not even that long ago.
Not even that.
Probably within the past decade, even I would say.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on that one. But yeah, so it's it's not whether this makes it wrong or right. is kind of a different conversation, but it's
Yeah.
just like, it's a different look. It's the same thing, but it's just a different look. Whereas like, from my understanding, I was really young, but I mean, I don't think people were going to pastors and being like, that suit looks very expensive. I don't think you should be wearing that to church. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then the last main point that I remembered, I'm not sure how I feel about this one, but the pastor said, the guest said, like, it's wearing designer sneakers is a way for them to appeal to a wider demographic. So rather than just, I don't know how to explain it, but just like, instead of just, appealing to a small group of, people that are searching for God, people like that are already in the church and, people that are seeking something more. He was saying like, these preachers and pastors are reaching out to, sneakerheads. Like, if you have someone that doesn't really know Jesus and you show them a sermon of a dude wearing like, I don't know, Jordan 1 Off-White collabs. I have a pair of them. But anyways, that's the humble brag. Not even humble, just a straight up brag. But anyways, like, you have a preacher wearing those and their sneakerhead is going to be like, whoa, this dude is like cool as, like, I want to listen to what he has to say.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is kind of judging a book by its cover, but I mean, it is a way for, them to reach out to more people. And then he also said like he thinks that sometimes it can, it can appeal to more of the wealthier people or the wealthier population as well. They're seeing them wear really expensive clothes and they're like, hey, like, this person's like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, like, I don't know how I feel about that point specifically about like, appealing to richer or more wealthy people. But I mean, it's made me think a lot more about that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And it's a good point. I think, and it's fine if that's not the only reason as well, I think, in my opinion as well. Like, if I'm sure they're buying it because they like the stuff as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think pastors can be okay with saying, and I enjoy wearing this stuff too.
Yeah, and
that
that was actually one of the points he made. Like,
yeah,
the guest was saying he didn't have a lot of money. Like, he doesn't have a lot of money. Like, he's not wealthy by any means. But he was saving up for like these really expensive jeans. And to him, expensive meant, I think they were $300 or something.
Yeah.
And when you do the exchange rate, that's nearly like, that's like $450, $480 Australian. So those are really expensive jeans.
Yeah.
And he wore them to church one time. And he was saying like, he felt so self-conscious about what he was wearing because he was worried that people would like say something. And someone actually did come up to him and say something. And she was like, oh, you got those jeans, do you? Which is actually like really funny. But he was like, yeah, it sucks because I really like those jeans and I saved up so long to get them. And yes, I have other expenses that I need to pay for, but I wanted to get something that I really liked, and I really liked these jeans. And then someone just comes up to me and like is saying like, oh, should a pastor be wearing these sorts of things? And it's like, I wear what I want to wear. I really wanted these pair of jeans and I worked hard saving up for them so that I could.
Yeah. And I think we made some good points about this in our materialism episode as well. We kind of touched on clothing and stuff. Like, if it's something you actually want and it's you're like literally, it's not sort of completely against theology. Yeah. Then I think it's totally awesome that you can rock it. You can, if it's bringing people to spirituality and making them making them more relatable, I think it's even better. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But anyways, enough about that. I just thought it'd be cool from time to time that we, come back and reflect on it, because I mean, we always have conversations with people after the podcast, or I often do.
Yeah.
People come up to me and talk to me about it, and they actually often have really good insight to like what we say. They often they don't always have the same point of view as us, and they don't have the same beliefs as us.
Yeah.
But they're just like they help me look at it from a different view. So I think it's cool that sometimes to reflect on past episodes and stuff.
Yeah, it's good. Helping us grow as well. It's so good.
Anyways, so as I said before, this week we're talking about, I guess, convictions that, we get as young Christians and how we're supposed to deal with them and what's the right way to deal with them. And this idea of the for the topic today came from yesterday in Sabbath school. We looked through Luke 14, and it was kind of talking about how the disciples were really overwhelmed by the fact that Jesus was leaving Earth. And in it, Jesus reminds them that they will be with the Holy Spirit, and that the Holy Spirit will be there to encourage them, the same way that Jesus did. And there was quite a few questions. I think there was maybe 8 or 9 that we kind of looked at as we looked at the passage. And one of them was like, what does the Holy Spirit specifically do to help the disciples take the message forward? And we went off on a bit of a tangent about, we answered the question, but then we kind of went off track, and we talked about how we need the Holy Spirit, within us to remain strong in convictions that God gives us. How we need the Holy Spirit to remain strong in sharing our message with others. And so I guess I have a question for you. Has God ever put a conviction on you that took you well out of your comfort zone?
Well out.
Or maybe let's start a little smaller. Has God ever taken you out of your comfort zone? Given you a conviction to take you out of your comfort zone?
Yeah. I think on a smaller level, or not when I say smaller level, I just mean smaller convictions. I think day to day, I think probably at least once a week, to be honest. There's times where it's usually talking to friends, where it's even last night, I was out with friends playing mini golf in the city, and it's
Holy moly.
Yeah. So it's I guess it's a cocktail bar as well.
Yeah.
And they were already a little bit, they had a little bit to drink already. And they were asking me what, tell me, and they, you can tell they wanted to have a long conversation. Why don't you drink? I want to hear it. And so I listed all the reasons, and I think it's 50-50, where sometimes Christianity is my first response, and then other times it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we spoke about this in an earlier episode as well.
Yeah. I remember we did.
Yeah. And yeah, so I said, it costs a lot. It's not good for your health, and I'm also Christian, and Christianity sort of points towards the health reasons as well.
Yeah.
So I was basically explaining that it's all sort of linked together, all those reasons. And yeah, I think those sorts of conversations sometimes take me out of my comfort zone, because I have to sort of think about what I should be saying, or how I'll portray Christianity, or there's a lot going through your head when people ask those sorts of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like, oh no, I don't drink because I'm Christian and the Bible tells me not to. Because one, that's not it is an answer, but it's not giving the person that's asking the question, to them, that's not a reasonable answer. They want to know where in the Bible, why in the Bible it says we shouldn't be drinking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also it can come across as judgmental. I have found in the past by accident. I just said to someone oh, I don't drink because I know that it's not good for you, and I grew up not doing it because I'm a Christian. Yeah. And then they were like, oh, they actually fucked up, and they were like, oh, so you're saying I'm bad because I drink? And I was like, no. Please don't punch me in the face.
Yeah.
That does happen.
Yeah. Wow. I haven't had that before, but
it was, yeah. It depends on the context as well. It was with in a sporting situation.
Yeah.
And people think they're always, hot stuff there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm very much the same. All the time, God is taking me out of my, or God is convicting me to step outside my comfort zone, little by little, just by sharing my faith with others, exactly what you were saying. And I think every Christian gets that. There's always this little bit of fear of being I have to tell them that I'm a Christian. But yeah, no, at university, I do that all the time. word has gotten around now that I am Christian, and it's nice. It's actually relieving for me because that means I don't really have to tell people.
Yeah.
Like they just know.
They just know. Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I've definitely had conversations with people, like someone from uni that I don't know that well, but he met one of our friends, Kevin, who comes to Morpeth Vale. They met through Instagram and like mutual friends, and then this guy from uni went to house church. And so then I had a conversation with him. I was like, oh, bro, I heard you met my mate Kevin. I heard you went to house church and stuff. And he's like a devoted, I think he's a part of the United Church.
Yeah.
I think so. But yeah, so we had a good conversation. And then my friend was like, oh, are you a Christian? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, that's cool, man. Like, and I was like, wow, thank you, Jesus. This was such a positive experience.
Yeah.
Even just someone saying, oh, that's cool, rather than like laughing.
It wasn't someone
and
judging
mocking.
you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it was just it was so nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, sometimes like it's such a daunting idea. There's this one person also from uni who like, he told me he grew up Christian, but he doesn't believe it anymore because like he thinks it's a sham. Like those are the words that he gave me. And like, I don't know if he actually I don't think he realizes that I am a Christian, but I know that in the past he's asked me, he's like, oh, why don't you eat pork? And I was like, at the time I was just like, I don't like the taste of it, which wasn't lying, but it wasn't 100% telling the truth. Yeah. And I mean, if I could go back in time, I would have told him like, yes, because I'm Christian. And like, you know, we read that in the Bible, but yeah, like it's, you know, it's the same with people at hockey, and they ask me, why can't you play this Saturday? Because it's my day of rest. Like I believe in God, and I believe that the Saturday was made to rest and, you know, to be set apart from every other day. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny you bring up the pork thing, actually. I had a conversation, I think last year with someone, and, you know, I brought up the whole Christianity thing as a point, like why I don't eat it as well. But then I also linked it to studies like cancerous studies, like finding that it actually like, I wasn't like going out of my way to do it, but I just heard it like within that past week or something that it's like, like pig is like linked to like all these forms of cancer. And then he kind of got defensive. He was like, you don't actually believe that, do you? And I'm like, well, you know, it wouldn't surprise me. You know, if it's a clinical study, then, you know, I think I might believe that.
Yeah. Although in that dude's defense, I feel like everything can give you cancer these days.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right.
But no, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But what about big? I guess have you ever been in a situation where God has like completely withdrawn you from your comfort zone, like taking you like 20 kilometers away from your comfort zone?
I actually can't think of a specific thing on top of my head, but I think it's been a slow sort of build up over the years as my spirituality. Oh, rain. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I think it's rain. Yeah, I don't think the mics will pick it up, but yeah, it's pretty heavy right now. Yeah, sorry. So I think as my spirituality, I guess spiritual journey, I should say, has grown, I've been more inclined to, I guess, make more commitments to actually growing his kingdom, I guess. And even this podcast is a big commitment.
Yeah.
It's, you know, we're definitely a good few weeks in and it's a weekly thing. We might take a break for a little bit. We were considering that, and we might do that for a little bit, not too long, just to, I guess, think about how it's gone and how we move forward. But anyway, that's off topic. Yeah, I think things like that, just more commitments.
Yeah.
I can't think of a time where it's just been, like, this is completely not me, you know what I mean? But I think over time, my thoughts on what I should be doing have been changing. I think it's been really cool, and like that, I think that sort of journey has made me think that it hasn't like caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I think some people how you were describing it, I think some people catch us off guard, like this is not me at all, like this is not my comfort zone. I don't think I really had that, and that's been really cool for me. I think it's just been natural. Well, how about you? I want to hear your thoughts.
I think it's a little bit different to you. Like, I guess it all started a couple of years ago when Mark, who, you know, the one that joined us for the House Church podcast, he was the youth social committee leader at the time. And he was like, hey man, like, you want to be on the social committee with me to help, like, you know, run social events for the youth. And that was probably the first time, like, before then I was just there, just, you know, being a part of the community, just consuming. And I was just like, oh, I've just been like consuming this whole time. I don't know, I can't think of another word right now. But it's like, oh, I've just been, you know, taking in, I don't know, like, should I, like, would I be any good at it? Like, and I accepted it, and it actually went really well, and now I'm the youth social leader. But yeah, no, that was definitely like a lead up to, you know, bigger and better things. Like I just said, like, first I was a part of the social committee. Now I'm like leading the social committee. Yeah. And that was also another daunting step. I was like, man, like, I have to run this. Yeah. Like I have to take charge, and I have to, like, you know, get it all done. Yeah. Which was pretty scary as well. And then I think those things have been a lead up to you know, taking on the youth leader role with Frida, the other youth leader. She, like, we both were asked, like, hey, I think it'd be really cool if we had 2 youth leaders, so that, like, you know, we can come together and have more decisions, or like come to more decisions and more discussion and more ideas. Yeah. And that was another scary thing. Like, there's about maybe 40 to 50 youth here at Morpeth Vale, which is a lot of people for someone that I guess I haven't really been in a leadership role like that before. Yeah. And then, like, to be honest, I felt like God was preparing me for something like that. And I even had the conversation with someone like Travis and I. We were talking about, we were hanging out a lot more, and we were kind of talking about church, and we were talking about, you know, leading and all that sort of stuff. And I think he was kind of preparing me for this. Like, that's kind of what I thought. And I was like, and I said to a friend, I was like, I think he's preparing me to take on the youth leader role. And then I said to a friend, like, do you reckon God, like, is doing this? Like, do you reckon God wants me to do this? And then they said, like, hey, if you know, if you've been given this opportunity, I definitely, like, to grow the kingdom of heaven, I don't think God would not put that on your heart. And so, like, as soon as I got asked, I accepted it, or in my heart I already accepted it, but I was super scared, like, because like, I've just never done anything like that before. Understandably. Yeah. It's a big step forward. Yeah. And it reminded me of Romans 12, where it says, if you've been given the ability to lead, take that responsibility seriously. Oh, that's cool. And the thing is, not many, if you know me, you know that I'm not always the most serious person. Like, I'm just a bit of a rapscallion sometimes. And so, like, when I knew this leadership thing was coming, and, like, you know, taking on youth social committee and then youth leader, I was just like, okay, like, I got to take this seriously. Like, I want to do a good job. And if I don't take it seriously, I'm not going to do a good job. Yeah. But yeah, like it was definitely, like, similar to you. It was steps, but for me, I felt like they were quite big steps. Yeah. That actually reminded me of a time where last year I was asked to speak for the first time at our Connect, our youth socials that we do. And the person who asked me was like, I think you have, like, a lot to share. I'm like, what makes you say that? Because I don't feel like I had anything prepared to, like, actually just be able to talk for even 10 minutes. Yeah. Then again, we're doing all these podcasts every week now, and we can talk for hours. So I've definitely learned that that's incorrect. We can definitely have long conversations. But I guess one-on-one, like, you speaking alone to a whole bunch of people is a bit different. You have to prepare, and you have, I guess, a list of things you want to talk about. And so that was a really cool experience, because I wanted to share about God allowing us to be peaceful and just accepting his plan for our lives and that sort of thing. And it was really cool to get a few people to help me write it
and share something that I thought was really cool, which it's helped me in the past, that sort of message. And it was really cool to actually be able to share that with other people. So I think that was probably one of the bigger things as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And then going back from what you were saying earlier, like the podcast, that was definitely a leap of faith, like going out of the comfort zone. Like when the first episode was going up, I was just like, man, are people gonna like this? Like, are people gonna want to hear what I have to say? And like, I was super nervous. And I think to this day, we've only been doing it for this will be the 9th week we've done this. And so like, we're 9 episodes in and I still get that kind of fear. And I'm just like, God, I got it. Like, just please help me not to say something stupid. Like, I want to do your work.
That's right.
And I still get that fear of, whether or not people want to hear what I have to say or upsetting people with what I say.
Yeah. And
so, we had a chat with Joel last week now. And, he was saying like, don't be afraid to just be straight up with how you're feeling. Like, you say all these things that, have a lot of impact, but then you kind of withdraw from them. And like, that's been a real challenge for me, is just being like, yes, this is what I feel, like, this is what I believe. And like, these things are based off scripture and personal growth. Yeah. So like, that is taking a leap in faith, like going out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And just like telling people how I really feel. Yeah.
I think that's the kind of the whole point of our, I guess, for like a better word, show, podcast series. Like, I think it's important to be genuine and to actually share, so we can grow, like we were saying. We can have good conversations with people and learn off each other. And because we often have questions that we're like, well, we don't know exactly which direction we should be heading or how we should look at this issue. But if we have conversations with everyone and involve everyone and just be open, completely open and not hold back, I think that's where the most growth happens with everyone that's involved.
Yeah, definitely.
It's awesome. It's been an awesome experience so far.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, like, we've had a lot bigger reception and a lot better reception than I even imagined. I know we're not huge, but our first podcast, I think, has like over 130 views now, which is a lot more than I thought. Yeah. And then another podcast that had a bit of controversy on it, that has like over 140, maybe 150 now. And like, I think like our podcasts don't go below 50 views, which is a lot more than I was expecting. I was expecting maybe 30 to 50 views in the first episode, and then maybe 5 to 10 after that. But we're getting a lot of support from people, and God wanted us to get out of our comfort zone, and people are really liking that.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Now, we talked about the good part of convictions. Let's kind of go into the negative side a bit. So, have there ever been situations where you felt God has convicted you to do something, but just in your own human nature you couldn't do it?
I think the closest thing again would be having conversations, and I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's like often you think they will judge you. I think that's the first thing. Even if you're not thinking that straight away, I think that's the first reaction. You'd be like, no, I'll just have other reasons of why I don't drink or why I don't do this or why I keep the Sabbath. Yeah. Things like that. I think that's been the biggest thing for me. Like, kind of thinking like, it doesn't feel right to do in this situation. And maybe that's... just thinking out loud here. Maybe that is God telling me maybe this isn't the right time. I don't know if that's... I believe that's something that happens. I think God controls sort of our hearts in situations. So that could be a thing. But then again, I'm not saying I'm just a perfect being. Yeah. I think often it's, there is a time and then I don't do it. it's my own human nature, like you were saying. I think so to answer your question, I think it's mostly in conversations where it's like I get held back by human nature.
Yeah, and that's such a frustrating thing for me. Like, I just so mine is introducing myself to new people that come to church. Even introducing myself to people like people that like I haven't met, but your friends, like maybe a friend brought like one of their friends that doesn't come to church one Sabbath, and they come one Sabbath. I even find that hard to introduce myself sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because I feel like I'm a very extroverted person, but it's just meeting new people gives me an anxiety. Like, I'm not saying I have anxiety, but it does give me like a small bit of anxiety, and I'm just I'm just gonna pretend I don't know them, and then that can come off as like super rude.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to be rude, but I mean that's just something I have a problem with. And even yesterday, at church, I was playing the drums, and when I was up the front, I saw this dad and their son, and I'm assuming the son was maybe 15, 16. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know, ever since becoming youth leader, like I really want to involve, the teens more and get connected to the school that's attached to the church a lot more. Yeah. And I saw this kid, and I was like, man, I really want to go over, and say hi. Like, I really wanted to introduce myself. And then I was just even thinking like, God, is this what you want me to do? And then just the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, like I definitely think God wants me to go up and speak to this person. And I just couldn't do it. And I was, even thinking about it this morning, I was just so frustrated by it. But it was really cool because after church, I looked up and I saw my dad talking to them. And I was like really happy that at least someone spoke to them.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. But yeah, I think it's definitely talking to new people. And I think that responsibility is much greater now that I am in this youth leader position. Like I need to like actually be like, hey, I'm like Ted, I'm the youth leader here at Morfett Vale. I'm one of the youth leaders here at Morfett Vale. Like, nice to meet you. Like, thanks for coming, all that sort of stuff. Like, yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Even like, not just that, another thing that I struggle with is like, seeing someone that you love and then having to tell them what they're doing is wrong. Like, so I guess for the viewers and the listeners, an example of that would be like, you're seeing someone do something that's self-destructive, or like even things like drinking, and you just like, you see them drinking and you see them changing, and you're just like, hey man, like what you're doing, isn't good for your spiritual life. And it's so quick and easy for them to just assume that you're doing it to judge them. And they're just like, oh, you just want the moral high ground, like, you Christians, or like, just like, you guys think you're so much better than us. And it's like, no, bro, like, I'm not telling you that to get the moral high ground. I'm not telling you that to say that I'm better than you and to act like I'm better than you. I'm telling you this because like, I love you and I don't want to see you sin. Yeah. And like, I think that's probably one of the hardest things to kind of, to like tread lightly on. Like, I feel like I don't think there's any middle ground for that, to be honest. Like, I think, sometimes you just got to say it. You can't really say those things, but then like, I feel like if no matter what, it can be interpreted as people judging, or as you judging them, the way people... Hold on, let me rephrase. I think no matter what happens, people can interpret it as you're judging them. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's a way to say it like that. I don't think there is a way that you can say it where it doesn't where it can't be interpreted as judgment. Mm-hmm. And that's what is the scary thing about it. Like, we've been called to a life to bring people closer to God, and that does mean like telling them what they're doing is wrong. And that's definitely not me saying I'm perfect. Because I sometimes I need to be told what I'm doing is wrong. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful. Like, I mean, sometimes at first I'm like, stuff those guys, like I get real defensive about it, but then the more I think about it, I'm like, okay, no, they're right. Like, I need to really rethink about everything.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to tell someone you love, like, what they're doing is sinning. You know what I mean?
Yes. Definitely. I kind of almost get offended sometimes where it's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to judge you. Like, and especially if it's a one-on-one, like, I kind of sometimes, if I'm in that situation, I'll get confused as to why they think I'm trying to have the moral high ground, because I kind of feel like they should know that I love them and I want the best for them. And I think that's why it's so difficult, because if they do react that way, it's like they might not even take it on. But like you were saying, if you notice it for yourself, if someone tells you, you have that reaction, or I'll have that reaction sometimes where it's like, nah, screw you.
Yeah, like.
But then you actually reflect on it. Maybe that's what happens to the people that we speak to as well. But then again, it doesn't feel the best for us.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
we get sort of attacked. And then that leads to these conversations. We're like, well, are we doing the right thing in those situations?
Yeah. And it's just like, it's scary because, some people may be so offended where they don't want to speak to you. And it's just like,
yeah.
I mean, like, I've been saying this a lot, but I'm telling you out of love. I'm not telling you because I want you to feel small. I'm not telling you to think that I'm better than you. Or I'm not telling you that to think that I think I'm better than you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think as Christians, we have a job to tell people like, because a lot of people don't know, and they may not realize. And that's our job to be like, hey, like, you may not realize this, but that's really long term. This can be really unhealthy for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I mean, it happens in my friendship circles as well. Like, I've had conversations with people, and I've tried to kind of beat around the bush, and it just doesn't quite get through. And that's not their fault. I think that's my fault. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just like, oh, sometimes, maybe, doing that stuff isn't a good idea. And then they go, no, like they
shut it down.
Yeah, because I think it's because they don't, or because I'm not being like, going straight at it. Like, I'm trying to tactically, say it right so I don't offend them.
Yeah.
And it's not about offending someone, but it's about being real with someone.
Yeah. And maybe that comes back to, I guess, Joel's point that we had when we had a conversation with him last week, where it's like, maybe we should just be more open and honest with people.
Yeah.
in more ways than one, obviously. So it comes to that conversation about what we say on the podcast, but also just in life.
Yeah, what we say to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I think in regards to that point that we had with Joel, I guess sometimes I'm afraid that, like, what I have to say, because I'm on this spiritual journey, like, I might not be right.
Yeah.
And I may be completely biblically wrong, and I'm worried to speak heresy. I was saying that in a lighthearted sense, but being like 100% real at the same time. Like, I don't want to be saying the wrong thing because of my ignorance.
Yeah.
And that can go with, telling people, like, I guess the right way to live.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the point about offending people, it's definitely happened, I think, to both of us. And whether it was about, I guess, telling them that what they should or shouldn't be doing, or even making jokes. Like, I've been known to just be too blunt. And so that's something for me I need to work on, like, in like being 100% real. Like, that's, I think, the biggest thing that I need to work on, that I've noticed over the past couple of years, where it's like, sometimes it is because I want them to improve, or I'm just making a bad joke and I thought it would be taken better, but it's just not. Yeah. I think I think I've noticed that I've had a quick speaking tongue, which I need to slow down and maybe think about what I'm saying a bit more. But that being said, it comes back to this because it's like something I have thought about. Like if I love someone, I want them to make a better life for themselves. How do I say it without offending them?
Well, kind of like what I said earlier, like I don't think there is a way to say it without offending people.
Yeah.
And I think partly that is human nature. Because we both said, like, if someone calls me out, yeah, I'm going to get offended.
Yeah.
But then once I reflect on it a bit, like, yeah.
I guess that's our own growth to have. I guess you don't want to tell the other person that, but it's like, you're reacting this way because you need to grow more. That'll make it even worse.
Yeah. Just adding fuel to the flame, really.
That's right. But, I think that's true. I think it's true. I think how we react. I just thought of Instagram just then because you see all these quotes about like, you choose how you react to things. But it's true. Like, you have self-control, which you need to try and manage. And we had training at work and they referred to it as green brain or red brain. They're like, don't have red brain responses. Just think when you're getting angry, green brain.
Green brain.
So you don't lose your job. And we actually hear people at work and say it all the time. Green brain. But that's actually kind of cool. Like that kind of culture where it's like, you get called out straight away. Like, no, stop reacting.
Yeah, you're encouraged to, react differently. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like, I think subconsciously I've been mulling over this idea for a while because, like, I guess I've grown really close with my group of friends, but like I see them doing things and I'm just like, well, not all of them, but sometimes I see my friends and I'm just like, man, like, I love you, which is why I don't want to see you do those things, but I don't want to tell you because like I don't want to offend you and I don't want to ruin that growth that I've had with you.
Yeah.
And so like I'm really trying to, be 100. Like I want to be honest with them, like completely transparent. But it's hard in this context. Like it's hard to be like, hey, dude, like what you're doing is gonna really affect you in the long run. And like I've had a conversation with my friend, and he's just kind of been like, oh, I'm just gonna say it. I don't think they'll listen to this, but he was saying like, look, I'm really loving my life right now. I'm living the best life that I think I can live. But the things he does, maybe like they're not necessarily good for him. Like. And I really care about this person, and I couldn't bring myself to say, look, man. Oh no, sorry. Before he kind of finished what he was saying, he was like, maybe 5 or 10 years down the track, maybe I will take Christianity seriously. Like he believes there is a God, but he's not quite ready to, I guess, really like believe and trust in God.
Yeah.
And so he's doing all these things that aren't very good for him spiritually. And then I was just too afraid to be like, hey man, you might not have 5 or 10 years. Like who knows when Jesus comes back? Like,
That's right.
That's a scary thing. I want to see my best friends in the kingdom of heaven with me. And it's kind of my fault if I'm not telling them, if I'm not being real with them. And that's a scary thought.
Yeah. I think what I would say to that is if people are like that are listening, I want to encourage them to take one step towards anything spiritual related, whether it be just like opening the Bible app on your phone or at least downloading it. Maybe that'll be the first step. Maybe downloading it and getting an account on YouVersion is the first step.
We'll follow you.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll friend you.
That's right. And even like, because I think for me, I've been in that situation before. It's like even a couple of years ago where I wasn't as spiritually minded. I was like, I'm loving life. Like I kind of almost don't have a reason to have devotionals.
Yeah, it's like you're your own king.
Yeah. And I've definitely had, over the years, like reasons to, move towards God again. Or not again, sorry. But I think what I'm trying to say is a couple of years ago, I wasn't as, like I was saying, I wasn't that spiritual. Like I would go to church, but I didn't feel like God was 100% in my life. And, you know, he's still not 100%, you know, how do I say it? He's still not, I still need improvement, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like all of us.
Yeah, we'll always need improvement, yeah.
Yeah, but I think taking those first steps won't hurt. I think that's what people that are in that sort of situation think. It's like, this will take me towards a place that I don't want to go because I'm loving life too much. I think that's what the people like that think. Consider like, I'm just thinking from my own experience. I think it's like, you know, I could be spending time doing other things that I enjoy if it's about time. And I think what we have to realize, I think even just us talking about this now, we've both had experiences where we realize that God's awesome. We want him in our lives. And it's definitely not going to hurt you. It's only going to cause good things. It's only going to give you a better life. So I think definitely I want to encourage people to take just one step, devotional or anything, and see where it takes you.
Going off of that, like, I guess the conversation that I had with my friend, and he was saying like, oh, I'm just really loving life right now. Like, you may be, like, the way I see it, and this is speaking from experience, it's like, yeah, you may be loving life now, but what happens when something, like, what are you going to be feeling and thinking when, like, something really bad comes in? And it may not even be related to, like, what you're doing right now, but it could be like maybe a loved one passes away and, like, it really throws you in a funk. Probably not the right word to use in that situation, but like, it really throws you into like a valley.
Yeah, definitely.
And, like, I mean, you know, growing my relationship with God hasn't made my life easier. I would argue that it's actually made my life harder. But, like, the relationship that I have with God, these bad situations definitely, like, have no impact on my spiritual life. Like, yeah, they're sad, yeah, they suck, but I have this hope and I have this comfort in God that he will carry me through it. And I would take that over living my own life the way I want, like the way I wanted to live it, you know, in the past. Like, I'll take being with God, close with God, than that any day.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, you know, people are too afraid to, like, oh, I don't want to give up drinking. I don't want to give up drugs. I don't want to give up, you know, porn. Like, because to them, like, that stuff is cool. And, like, we live in a society where those things are glorified. And, like, I mean, you know, you can get severe porn addiction. You can become an alcoholic. You can form a really bad drug habit and addiction. Like, yeah, I say this all the time, but you can't, like, there's nothing in the Bible that would, like, make your life worse. If you were to follow God the way that he wants you to follow him, like, there will be nothing in your life that you do that will make it worse. Like, going to church, that's not going to make your life worse. You know, spending time with God every morning, that's not going to make your life worse.
Exactly.
Whereas, you know, you're going out to town every week, becoming a town person. I was going to call it something else, but what
good save.
Yeah. It's what other people say. I don't say it, but sometimes people refer to people that go to town every week as town rats.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, like, you know, you go to town every weekend. I know people. I come across people that go Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, 3 nights in a row, and, like, and it's just like those, like. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought, but but it's just like, yeah, those things, like, I think those things can easily cause bad things to happen in your life. That could be, you know, maybe you get drugged and then, you know, someone does something to your body that you do not consent to. That could mean you get into a fight. That means you could get arrested.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, like, I'm sure, like don't get me wrong, I know that, like, all my friends, when they go out, you know, they think they have a good time. And I'm not necessarily saying that, but I'm saying those things can easily lead to a bad time.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, living your life with God, like won't get you drugged.
Quote of the podcast. That's 100% true. I love where this conversation went. It's been good. But back to our topic.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's fine. When we're struggling with someone who, I guess we've realized that they need to hear something from us about improving their lives, should we, like we were saying, be completely open and honest and just say what we think and try not to worry about how they react? Or, because something I've been thinking about is kind of just living and being friends with them and just being a role model. And I think maybe there's a balance of both there. Maybe that's a better way of doing it. Because I've definitely noticed that, people ask questions even last night, like I was saying before, people ask questions based on what you do. So I think maybe that's an easier way for us to go about it. And when I say easier, I mean a way that they can realize without them reacting, because you haven't verbally said anything. You become a role model for them because of just you being around. And then they realize without them, maybe they have a reaction, an internal reaction, not against us, but for themselves.
Yeah.
That's something maybe we could consider as, I guess, melding both together in that sense.
Yeah, I think there is a balance. Like you can't just meet someone, see them drinking or being crude, like overly crude and all that sort of stuff. You can't just be like, hey man, like you shouldn't be doing that sort of stuff, because if you're doing that to someone you just met, they'll be like, who are you? Whereas if you build relationships with people, like love them the way Jesus loved others, like you build a relationship with you, like you do begin to I guess infect others with the love of Jesus. Like I definitely think in my group of friends, my relationship with God has put me in a position where I can, where I'm getting to the point where like the way I act and the way that I do things does have an impact on them. And that's actually a really big responsibility. Like I've noticed, like in my actions, like I need to be very careful of what I say and what I think and what I do. Like what I do especially because like if I'm beginning to be an influence on them and they see me doing something bad, then they'll think that's okay.
That's right. Yeah.
And like I'm not saying like I am a saint or I'm like this amazing person by any sense of the word, but like I'm definitely trying to live more like Jesus, and like I want my friends to start acting like that as well. But I definitely think there are times where God tells you like, or wants you to talk to people about what they're doing. Like, I mean, being who I've become, like, growing more dependent on God and growing my spiritual life has definitely encouraged others to come ask me a question. And I don't necessarily have the answer.
Yeah.
But it's like they I had a friend, they came to me about relationships and they were just like I don't know like what to do. Like I don't know if I'm ready for a relationship. I don't know if this person is right for me. Like I'm scared to commit. And I just said to them, I was like, dude, like this is something that you need to pray for. Like this is something that you need to seek from God to help with, because I can't answer this question for you. Yeah. Like you will know whether it's right or not. And like sometimes it's scary to commit, but I mean you just got to do it. And I remember telling them, I said to them, I was like, look, I would highly recommend that you date someone who is like-minded like you. So that means like you want to date someone that is a Christian, like, and look, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are situations where, you date a non-Christian and then that person, comes to church and starts following God. And that's awesome. Those are like really cool stories. But I mean, I feel like those situations, like God is definitely leading, like I feel like God would have to like kick me in that direction. Because I feel like most of the time it doesn't end that way. I feel like a lot of the time one Christian and a non-Christian getting married often ends in the Christian conforming to the non-Christian's lifestyle rather than the opposite effect.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's more so, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think I had, while I was having Bible studies with Travis, when, like you were saying, when people ask questions, we don't always have the answers. Travis Townend was really pushing to, when you talk to people about biblical things, encourage them to sit down with you with a Bible instead of, I guess, preaching to them yourself. Because like we were saying before, we don't have the answers. We might not be right. We might say the wrong thing. And so I think it does two things. It helps us be correct and accurate when we sit down with the Bible with them. And it encourages them to do the same thing for themselves. I think more than just having a conversation with them one-on-one, with the Bible, and I guess praying as well.
Yeah.
You can have a better impact on their lives because it's more accurate, and it'll encourage them to do it more often with themselves or with other people.
Yeah, definitely. It's and again, it's that leading by example. If you're doing an action of like opening the Bible and looking for that answer in front of them, then they'll be like, oh, maybe I can do the same. That's
true.
So I definitely see the good in doing that. I never thought about it like that before.
Yeah. And it's something I still struggle with. Like, I always want to be the person who just gives them the answers, even if even if they're not, I don't tell them things that are incorrect on purpose, but, I just think based on my knowledge that it's the best answer to give them, but it just might not always be fully accurate.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult.
I think I used to be a bit like that as well. Like, I used to be like, oh, like I want this person to, like you kind of pride yourself in like, oh, they come to me for advice.
Exactly.
But then you start to answer the question on your own, like you're not using God, and then that's when you flop hard.
Yes.
When you're just like, oh man, you just got to do this, and not really think about it, or not even praying to God while you're having a conversation with this person, like in your head, just like, God, like please, like speak through me.
Yeah.
Because like it's so easy to trip yourself up.
That's right.
Because you pride yourself in being like, oh, this person comes to me for help, but it's like, no, you want the person to come to God for help, but that may be through me. Like, I want God to speak through me in all situations. And I've definitely, like, I've really had to pray about that. Yeah. Like, I've been like, God, like, take this prideful nature away from me, because, like, if I'm doing this on my own, then I'm going to lead them down the wrong path. Yeah.
And same here. Like, I struggle to this day with that exact thing. Like, even non-Christians who ask me questions, I should, like, thinking about it now, I should just really just talk less, invite them more. And I still invite them, but like, we just have super long conversations without scripture with us.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to answer all the questions by themselves, whether it's at the gym, whether it's socially, like, and maybe that's just because like, oh, I can't play out the Bible here at the gym. We're working out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's where I should probably just realize that I'm talking too much and encourage them to either come to events and learn more, or just open the Bible with them properly later and have a proper sesh.
Yeah. And I had a thought about that, but I can't quite remember it anymore. Sometimes I have conversations with people, and then at the end of it, I'm just like, oh man, like I kind of took control of that situation. And the thing is, I noticed that when I realize I take control of the situation rather than letting God take control of the situation, because I just know that the conversation didn't go anywhere. Like, no questions were really answered, and nothing of value came out of my mouth. And then I'm like, man, like I really screwed up there. Like, I really wish God took control. And so those are experiences that I've learned from, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, God will definitely give you another opportunity to reach out to this person if it's in his will. So that's kind of the hope I have. I'm like, God, I'm sorry I screwed up, but if it's in your will, like, you'll give me another opportunity.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's good. I guess points for Christians to think about, but as well as if you're non-Christian and you're listening, I really want to encourage people to take some steps to either talk to someone, just open the Bible even.
Yeah. I mean, you can easily Google, like, what does the Bible say on this? Or like, what you could Google, what does it mean to live like Jesus? Like, you don't necessarily need a Bible, but I mean, you can use Google to get to a Bible.
Yeah, that's right. There's so many awesome resources.
Yeah.
And there's a new one called the I Am series, which we could link below, I guess.
Okay.
I haven't actually watched all of it myself. I watched the first episode where it's basically just a high level explanation of, I guess, why we want God in our lives. And then it just goes deeper from there. It's like, well, who is God? What is God? Why do I want it in my life? And it just goes deeper from there.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
There's awesome resources like that we can share.
Yeah. One thing I did learn a few years ago is, like, if you were wanting to open the Bible for the first time, like if that's how you want to go about it, it is always suggested. No, not always. It was suggested that you read, the Gospels, so Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Like, you read the first few books of the New Testament, so then you can really learn about Jesus and, like, his life. Like, I've heard, like, that's the best way to kind of introduce yourself to the Bible.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's good.
So I think that pretty much wraps it up. Maybe let's just kind of put in some main points, like about convictions. Like, I don't necessarily think there's an easy way to tell someone, like, hey man, you're sinning. But I mean, you just got to keep loving that person, and you got to pray about it as well. Because maybe you're feeling like you need to call that person out, but maybe God has a different idea in mind. Who knows? Prayer is definitely a thing about it.
Yeah. And just being a good role model as well.
Yeah, being a good role model.
That's what I found. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All
right. Well, if you want to get in touch, we'll have our email and our other links in our description. So contact mvcyouth@gmail.com. And then, so we've got our Facebook, Instagram, and you can also listen to us on the other platforms. So we got Spotify, Google, Apple, if you're on YouTube. But if you're on the audio, we're on YouTube as well. So wherever you are, you have other options. And I think that's about it. Tune in next week, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We've really been enjoying these conversations, and it's definitely helped open my mind to greater ideas as well, and different perspectives. And so it's been really awesome in my spiritual journey to be doing this with like-minded people. Yeah, because I feel like it's hard to have these conversations just out of the blue sometimes, which sucks. It actually does suck, like having spiritual conversations with people. Like, sometimes it's awkward to bring up, but like when we come here, like that is the
purpose.
That's the purpose of this. So like, we know what we're getting ourselves into, and it's just like it helps open the conversation more. It does. And and I hope that one day, we can get to a point where we don't need to be, sitting in a room with a camera in front of us and microphones talking about having these conversations. Like, we should be having them all the time. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been an awesome journey. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Yeah, well, it's a pretty messy situation. I mean, someone in his position surely shouldn't be making posts and stuff like that. Like, he would have had lawyers and people looking over his contract and stuff, and he would probably have some